Hi, my name is Jessica Hayes, and this is a presentation of my action research project of parent education and the support of struggling readers. This project stemmed from really a long-lasting passion for supporting struggling readers. It's always been something that I have loved to do as a classroom teacher, helping those kids that had a hard time with reading, that light bulb click to be able to have them develop a love of reading. In this, having struggling readers and working with parents of those students, in addition to the research that was collected through last term, the NEDU 530, regarding supporting struggling readers through literacy instruction, really came to me thinking outside the box in exploring an avenue of intervention that's not been well studied. There's been a lot of research on how teachers and schools can support struggling readers in the classroom, but not a lot about how maybe we can partner with parents and work with parents to help those struggling readers improve from the work that they do with them at home. In my experience, those parents of struggling readers desire information on how to help their child at home through the parent-teacher conferences that I've done with those kids. They ask, what can I do? How can I help them? What can I do to best support them at home? They want to help, they just don't know. So my project was looking at if we work with parents to give them the information on those early literacy skills and how those develop and strategies and things that they can do with their kids, how does that help those struggling readers in the long term? The review of the literature that is out there, I first started with parent involvement in literacy development, and that was really found that the struggle with reading among the majority of young children is attributed to poor early literacy experience and instruction. They either were not very well read to, they didn't have books in the home. It wasn't really a priority to sing nursery rhyme songs and those things that really focused on listening to how sounds are in words and even just talking, quality conversation with young children was not present and really affected the majority of young children. Obviously, there are a group of some struggling readers that have learning disabilities, dyslexia, and autistic and whatnot, that this was not really what I was looking into. I was more students who were not identified with a learning disability but still struggled with reading. Siegel and Martin Chang in 2018 did a study where they looked at parents' reading-related knowledge, and they found that was associated with children's reading outcomes in both kindergarten and first grade. So parents who knew more about reading and how to blend and segment words, and that those children had better reading results in kindergarten and first grade. Another study was found that parents wanted to know more about how to support their child, that there was a lot of stress involved in having a struggling reader, and that parents really desired a lot more communication from the schools to better support their child. There's a lot of research out on effective early intervention in a school-based setting. That the intervention component itself shows that the best interventions are code-based, which means it's phonemic awareness and phonics-based. And it happens 3 to 5 times a week for 15 to 30 minutes for 10 to 12 weeks at a time. So a longer intervention time does not necessarily mean better results. There's a lot of burnout and that kind of thing. So those were of the studies researched, that was the most benefit. The big key, too, is that intervention also needs to be responsive to students' individual progression of skills and have that instruction adapted as needed. So as they are starting to show progress in one area, to adapt instruction to be able to support those new skills that they've developed and where they're working on now, which, as connects later, is something that is difficult for parents to most likely do. They can work on an activity but not be as responsive to as their child develops as a teacher might be. The training of parents to provide intervention is not well studied at all. I only was able to find 2 studies that were linked to what I was looking at. In the few studies that I did find, they found positive student growth, but they came up with strong limitations such as sample size and lack of control groups. So my research question was, does parent education and phonological awareness and phonics strategies lead to gains in children's early reading development? So I gave students some assessments, which I'll go over in a minute. And then I held a seminar for the parents to attend, where it was an hour and a half long, where I gave them multiple handouts and talked with them about different ways games to do and how phonological awareness develops and what phonics is, and games and activities that are very low prep, but they're able to just do with their child as they're reading with them or during their homework time. So I used the DIBELS, which was also used as a school-wide assessment that's used, and I used that as an initial screener as well that the school provided of the students who were identified through their school-wide DIBELS assessment to be at risk of reading struggles. But once I had those children that were included in the study, I re-administered the DIBELS for sound fluency and nonsense word fluency scores to be able to have a comparison. Those assessments have benchmarks to them, so I can gauge if they're at or below benchmark. I also gave a heart phonological awareness assessment, which included rhyming, identification and production, initial sound isolation, blending, and segmenting skills. Each of those had 5 items to be able to determine mastery or the progress of. And I also coded their mistakes to be able to better analyze their development within each of those skills. And the BPST-3, which is just a phonics assessment for letter sounds. And I also had weekly parent communication where I sent out emails checking in, seeing how things were going, if there was any way I could support them in their efforts to support their child, anything that they needed from me. The results from the study, the first theme that I found was just the student gains, that all students made improvements in the early literacy skills that I assessed. One student even made such great gains that he exited at-risk status. However, that child also was in the realm of at-risk status prior. He was closer to exiting risk status than the other children. The theme, too, that I gained from the analysis of all the data was the cause of student gains. So those students in this project made gains in pre-reading skills. Most of the gains were not beyond what I would expect from students receiving quality classroom instruction and developmental expectations of their normal progression of literacy development. There was no night and day difference in their literacy skill development. It was just kind of your normal progression of development. The third theme was the parent participation in education. So out of the 31 parents that I solicited to participate, of those were the students that were identified to be at risk, only 4 participated. Of the participating parents, the largest struggle shared through the email communication was just time to incorporate and complete activities. Working families trying to juggle after school activities and homework, and so I really in those email responses, I really tried to hone in on things that didn't really take extra time. It was stuff they could do while they were driving in the car, things that they were doing already just through homework and reading aloud, and could incorporate into what they were already doing. The key learnings that I took away from the study was that parent training and the way that I did it, based from the research that I had seen and figured would be easiest in the action research sense, for a teacher to work with their classroom of students. There's not time for a teacher to give, multiple seminars and long, classes. It's just something that I wanted to try to see if something that a teacher could do one evening just to work with those parents quickly would make an effect. The way that it was done, it likely does not make a significant impact, as the gains that were made were similar to what I would expect just from traditional classroom instruction. And the largest hurdle was parents choosing to participate, which really calls for a future investigation as to why this was. But then when using parent support, using student-specific interventions that are low prep and easy for parents to use when they can. So, thank you.